So picture this, driving through the Carolina mountains, getting ready to head on a weekend retreat, having good food that you don't have to prepare or clean up after, getting ready to hear skilled speakers pouring into you with biblical truth, being surrounded with community of other moms who love Jesus, being entertained by an improv comedy show one night, having a stretch of several hours each day to just simply be and to connect with your Heavenly Father. Okay, and then pair this with knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So, this is what happened for me in mid-January on the Be Still Mama retreat. A friend shared about this retreat with me last year. And after hearing how she spoke of the refreshment that it brought her, it was an easy yes. I totally wanted in on that too. And you know what? Being there felt like just one of those moments that you're, quote, exactly where you're supposed to be. Earlier in 2025, a different friend invited me to the Billy Graham Library to a ladies' tea where the speaker that day was Rebecca St. James. Fast forward 6 months, heading to the Billy Graham Cove, the training center in Asheville, North Carolina. And then one of the core speakers for that retreat was Helen Smallbone and her husband. So, funny enough, small world, Helen is in fact Rebecca St. James, Christian artist, as well as a Christian music artist for King and Country. That's their mom. I mean, just mind blown. If you haven't heard of, which I personally hadn't, the movie Unsung Hero, check it out. I rented it and watched it on Amazon. It shares a bit about their miraculous God story. And you know what? It reminded me, you kind of just got to watch it, but really the dad was in music industry, promoting artists. Something fell through that he expected would not. And he was trying to find someone else to promote. And it ended up being that he was supporting the members in their own family, which is just like mind-blowing, the coolest. And it really reminded me of one of the episodes that I had shared in the fall, where really we're talking about what if the one who is being called forward is you. And that's been so much of the theme personally over the past several months, and one that maybe is stirring in your heart and mind too. So listen to that episode if you hadn't. It's talking about, are we trusting Jesus or putting our faith and our energy and our eyes on our insecurities? You've got to listen to that one. But if you're new here, hi, welcome back. I'm Alexandra Cavill, the lead coach for Grace-Based Christian Coaching, where we help ambitious women build lives that are directed by God and not driven by anxiety. I am a life and leadership coach for women who love the Lord, who are carrying a lot, and they want to live and walk in more peace and clarity and purpose. So back to the retreat, my roommate, she is so fun and fabulous, and she has an interesting story. She was raised in Israel. She is an Arab Christian. Where she grew up was initially, I believe, considered Palestine, and just has a story. But she was sharing with me that in Arabic, Eve means life. And it was just like a pinch me moment. And maybe you have these too, if you're in a career that you know is exactly where God would have you. Eve, like she said, Eve means life. I was initially certified as a life coach. That is what stirs my heart and ignites and puts me on fire. It's to serve women like you, ambitious women who are struggling with self-doubt and overwhelm and comparison, to live a life that is directed by God, that is full of confidence and strategy that supports and aligns with their values. My heart is to bring life to you. So that is the hope behind GSCC. That is the hope behind the podcast. That is the hope behind today's episode. So what are we going to talk about? Today we're going to dig into takeaways from the Be Still Mama retreat. I'll share top takeaways that could support you from a life and work perspective, that will support you in parenting, and that will support you in marriage. So essentially what you get here is highlights of 3 phenomenal days in under 30 minutes. Most of these quotes that I'm sharing are from Rebecca Lyon. She's an author, speaker, podcaster, and retreat host, and Helen Smallbone, the mom to some pretty, pretty amazing children. So, okay, let's get in. Let's do it. From a life and work perspective, a few quotes, and then what I'll do is share some additional thoughts, coaching questions, things like that behind them. The first one, a life not following Jesus is a life half lived. And isn't that the truth? The adventure that God will take you on is unlike anything that you could ever do or think of or accomplish on your own. A question you ask yourself, especially with work, is get curious about what is the motivation for what you are doing. And oftentimes that will help reorient us or ground us or anchor us. And is it pure? Is it holy? Is it noble? Is it glorifying God? That was really, really convicting for a lot of the women, particularly the ones who are working. Another question was, what is your rescue? So maybe it's time to be rescued from doing life that is consumed with other people's dreams. It's about the Lord. It's about, God, what is your best for me? And going all in on that. Going all in on that. If you've not listened to our episode on what makes you come alive in God, check that one out too. That's going to bless you in a big way as well. Okay, next, are you running a race in chains? I don't know about you, but she's even picturing that visual, the heaviness, like you feel it in your body. And one of the speakers went on to say, I was like, oh my gosh, is that it's tragic when the chains become part of your identity, when it just connects and melds into who you are and what you're doing, right? Like, no more. Don't let that happen for you, right? In Jesus' name, let those chains be released and be gone, okay? And another one here is she had talked about, like, this was so sweet, you guys. The speaker, the head of the conference actually shared this, that her daughter said this, like, from the mouths of babes, I believe her teenager, preteen daughter, said that I don't want to dwell on anything that I can't take to heaven. I mean, mic drop moment right there. So, instead, pursue Jesus. See where he meets you. Consider what will sow eternal seeds in what you do and for who's around you. Like, that is worth spending time and energy and effort on. Like, snap, right? Like, in a moment's instant, our perspective can be shifted with that. Okay, another quote here. He rescued me because he delighted in me. I don't know about you, but that's like an instant exhale, like an instant release, an instant hug for your heart, if you will. Think about, like, when is the last time that you sat in that truth and allowed yourself to be blessed by it? Because you know what? He does indeed delight in you. He delights in you and he rejoices over you with singing. His word tells us that. So consider, what would it look like to live that out? What if you allowed yourself to fully receive and embrace that truth? How might your day to day look or feel different? Okay, another angle that I've heard this concept before, but not in these ways. I think this was Rebecca who shared this one that I loved, was that we all have the same corporate call, right? To love God and love others, go and make disciples. But that our individual expressions of that, our individual giftings of how we get to go about doing that are different. And that was so powerful in the unity, but uniqueness that we all carry as believers. Next one, this was Helen. She had shared so they're from Australia. So to hear all of these phenomenal quotes with, like, the coolest accent was just so fantastic. And the different terminology that they used too. But she said the knocks of life tend to teach us better than the happy moments. That hits, doesn't it? It's so real. And remembering they are all for his good and his glory. And to just rest and have faith and surrender in that. Like, the people who are listening to this podcast have lived enough life to have something that you've experienced where you can say that is indeed true. Helen also shared it's not about inviting God on our journey, but about following him on the one that he has for you. This is worth repeating. It's not about inviting him on our journey, but it's about following him on the journey that he has for you. Can you even imagine? Like, this reminds me, I was thinking about this just last night, and just how, as human beings, we are so flawed and so in need of Jesus. Thinking about the Israelites and what, as they were leaving Egypt, going to the promised land, what their path looked like and how windy, and how really it could have been so short, so much more direct. Yet it wasn't. And isn't that such a picture of our own lives? That where are we making things harder for ourselves that don't have to be? What if we locked in to the Lord? How might things look different? And what would it look like to begin walking in that manner today? Okay, so this next one is our calling is where our talents, which is our effortless, and our burdens, which are what the things that break our heart, collide. So God gave you what you need to engage the burdens that you'll walk through. Oh my goodness, if that is not heartbreakingly beautiful, right? You guys, I think this was Rebecca. She said that you become passionate about the things that you have suffered through. That whole, your message, there's purpose in the pain. Hearing this reframed in this way too was stunning. She said you become free to set free. And thinking about that, what are you called to set others free in? What does that look like? And get fired up about that. All right, this was like a Power Pack quote too that I simply adored, and I'm thinking you all as well, is what has he appointed and anointed for you? Like I remember someone saying, you are a princess. You are a daughter of the High King. That makes you a princess. Like, what would it look like to walk around with that crown on your head? What would it look like to begin to see life differently and to walk with purpose, walk with confidence, walk with calling, because he has anointed and appointed something for you uniquely. All right, this one. If you cannot grieve, you cannot be comforted. Wow. Yeah. So many of the women I serve, we want to move on to the next. What is the next thing? Let's get over it, move forward, handle it. Yes, of course, but on to the next. But there's something so beautiful about sitting in that place of grief and allowing yourself to be seen, to be heard, and to receive. I was watching a video on social media recently, and it was someone, I don't know exactly who it was, but successful. And she was making this point that crying, it's not weakness. It is self-regulation. And I was like, come on. Yes. So think about what that is for you, what your body is yearning for in that space, and honor it. Okay, the next one, rhythms. Rhythms are a safety net and a guardrail. So someone had used the term hush. This might have been Rebecca, hush the house. Isn't that beautiful? So remembering rest is something that replenishes and rejuvenates you. So something where you feel better on the other side of it. So a lot of times we think I just need a break, I need a minute to rest, and we open up our phones, but really we always feel icky after that. So what would it look like that would rejuvenate you on the other side and honor that thing? Okay. This is a little bit of a shift, but more of nourishing our body, using food as fuel versus using food as an escape. I know. So what if as you ate, you thought about eating for strength, eating for energy, and eating for vitality? That's a whole episode in and of itself. Someone had also shared that the average American woman will spend 11 years of her life on social media, over a decade, not only on our phones, but on socials. Ouch, that feels gross, doesn't it? And then I heard this idea of what we consume ends up consuming us. So Rebecca had shared a story about, this might be in Italy, she had said there's something called, I believe, the Medusa jellyfish, and a snail kind of latches on and begins to feed off of this jellyfish. And over time, the jellyfish dies. It becomes actually, in fact, consumed by the snail, and the snail takes over. And it's kind of scary, but in a lot of ways, that's what's happening in the world. And by what we're, this is a wake-up call, you guys. What are we being overtaken by and consumed by? That was never supposed to be that way. Yeah, let that be convicting and spur you on towards something different. Like, let's do that together. And one more that the Lord spoke to me actually in some of this is that sometimes the best, quote, doing that you can do is worship Him. Experience Him, be with Him, and guard your heart because all flows from it. Amen. All right, next category here, you guys, we're going to do a quick few for parenting. One of the things that someone said was, with hard kids, believe that you will see the glory of God revealed in due time. And that is just such a beautiful vision for whoever is in the hard and messy middle that I want to offer to you here too. Next one, they talk about talking to your children about how God is directing your steps. Make it real, make it personal. Like we know in business, storytelling is a thing. What would it look like to share stories, share testimony with your children? And what kind of depth and connection and faith and trust in God might that create when you do that? Next one, who is going to be the safe external voice for your kids outside of you and your husband? So think on that. How might you begin to cultivate that now? Because you want to build that relationship, of course, where they can come to you. But what would it look like to have safe other peers of your own that they can connect with if that's something that would bless them and you down the line? And then someone mentioned the idea of plant seeds early on that, quote, we are different from the world. And gosh, I love that so much. Really, it's setting expectations that you will indeed encounter trouble. You will encounter trials and tribulations. So they're not surprised. They know, they expect that they will encounter this coming up, and thought that was just so brilliant. Okay, last but definitely not least is marriage. So it just was such a rich conversation that we had these for several days. And I had joked like, okay, where's the marriage conference? Like, let's all go to that together next to be able to enrich this area of our lives too. And you know what? God answered that prayer through an insanely powerful panel of a lot of the speakers alongside their husbands. And let me share a few things with you here on that. One, the question of like, what would it look like to be best friends with your husband? What would that look like? Maybe you have been in a time where that was the truth, but then you fell away from that. Kind of think, what would it look like to treat him as a best friend? What would it look like to treat him better than you treat your friends? And do that. You would do anything for your kids, they said, but would you do anything for your husband? So we thought about that one too. What would it look like to step it up and serve him above your children if you're a parent? What would it look like to prioritize your relationship? Think on that. Act on that. We talked about love is more than a feeling, but it's an action that you choose. They also talked about, we laughed, but it was like one of the biggest takeaways for some new participants. Helen shared this, to look at your husband with joy, with happiness, and with delight. Like, this sounds ridiculous to say, but like, it's so true. When you see think about golden retriever, you just get so excited and joyful and the biggest smile when they come into your space. What if you treated your husband in that way when he walked in the door? What if instead of, oh my gosh, you don't believe what happened, or grumbling, what if you treated him with delight and joy at the door? And we were all laughing, but then it also hit hard. It was a hurt so good moment, and one that, of course, I had to share with you guys as well. Okay, they had also shared that the health of your home is only as healthy as the health of your marriage. Like, this matters, you guys. This is worth paying attention to. And then shared that restored conflict leads to intimacy. Restored conflict leads to intimacy. So yes, we have all had hard things happen. Like, that's just the truth. That's the nature of living on this earth. Look at the term kintsugi and be inspired by that. It's when something breaks. It's a Japanese art, I believe. And it's put together and the cracks are filled in with gold. So the broken piece ends up even more beautiful and stunning and more gorgeous than before. That's what happens if you're willing to go in those hard places after conflict. Do you love it? Wasn't this retreat phenomenal? And this is a quarter, half of my notes. There's so much more too, but these are some of the highlights that I thought y'all would especially particularly appreciate. and enjoy. So recap, today we talked about life and work, we talked about parenting, we talked about marriage in this conference, the Be Still Mama conference, that just highlighted doing life in a faith-based way. So I pray that you're different, that your marriage, that your parenting, that how you show up is different on the other side of this episode because of something you heard that pricked your heart in the best way. So if you loved this, if this conversation blessed you, would you please take 10 seconds to leave us a rating? It would truly mean the world. And if you've really loved this, to take a few more seconds to leave us a review about what this podcast means to you. And if you've already done that, if there's a friend, a sister in Christ that you know would love some nuggets from this episode, grab the link, text it to her, let her be blessed by it too. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'll see you next time.